Let's do it. Let's open it up for some questions here.
My question is, how do you feel about...
Here's my opening question for you. Hello, I'm Graham Nash. There are two things that every theater has in common. One of them, of course, is an audience, and the other is a stage where the performer plays. In just a few minutes, the distance between the performer and the audience is going to completely disappear. Tonight's guest is going to face questions from her fans and have to sit down and listen to the opinions of her critics. And no part of her past, present, public or private life is off limits. Nothing. Now, you may think that one person sitting up there alone, facing an entire audience, is a little unfair. But if you check out this video, you're going to realize that this is nothing compared to what this performer's already been through. She's loose, man. I'm ready. In January of 1967, the Jefferson Airplane was gaining a reputation as the musical voice of America's youth revolution. A reporter from Life magazine was even more specific when he said, "I think the key to the whole movement may be Grace Slick." Raised in an upper-middle-class suburb of San Francisco, Grace Wing attended all the right schools, had a brief modeling career, and even married the boy next door, Jerry Slick. To Grace, such a normal upbringing made the next step obvious. Start a rock and roll band and call it the Great Society. After playing a concert with another local group, Grace was asked to join them in the Jefferson Airplane. She brought two songs with her that became Airplane's first big hits, Somebody to Love and her own composition, White Rabbit. The song's obvious drug references made Grace an overnight phenomenon and earned her the title, the Acid Queen.
One pill makes you larger and one pill makes...
When Grace announced she was expecting Paul Kantner's child, her marriage ended. And though their daughter's birth publicized Paul and Grace as a liberated, unmarried couple, their relationship was strictly conventional, right to the end.
When she's 10 feet tall
and while Grace sang of a revolution where each individual would take control of their own life, her decades of alcoholism and drug dependency showed that she herself was not listening. Grace was 40 years old before she finally confronted her problems. And even though it's been a daily battle, the past 10 years have only made her stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Miss Grace Slick.
The trouble is I don't like sitting down because then your thigh is spread out, you know? You get like all this...
Oh, reality. Reality strikes,
front
right?
cameras. Okay, how do we sit so we look cool, you know, and not fat? Look at this. I mean, what is this kind of shit? Okay.
Grace and I have known each other for, just before the Civil War, it was. And I figured, you know, that we would get out of the way, because as you do interviews, and I'm sure that it's happened to you a million times, what was it like at Woodstock, man? You know, what was it like at Woodstock? Now, your line from Woodstock was about the morning maniac people, because it was, what, 6:30 in the morning that
we were
you
supposed
played?
to go on at 9 o'clock at night. We were on the stage until 6 in the morning, no toilets. That's my remark about Woodstock.
How did you handle the no toilet situation?
I have no idea, because I got a bladder about this big, and it must have been that it was so thrilling and exciting.
Yes. Does anybody want to ask an interesting question or a light question of Grace? Anybody?
Fire it up, let's get nasty.
How are you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
I'm wondering, what were you like in high school?
What was I like? Actually, I was real straight. I never cut school. I did what my parents told me to. I was from Colorado.
Grace, none of this is being written down. You don't have to lie like this.
No, it's true. I didn't turn into a jerk until I was about 23. Late bloomer.
Hi, I'm Carla, and I was wondering if it was true that you went to school with Tricia Nixon.
No, I went to the same school, but she went about 10 years. She's younger than I am, a lot younger than I am. What she did was sent invitations to all the alumni of Finch for a tea at the White House. Now, the invitation, she didn't know any better. My name was Grace Wing when I was at Finch College. It wasn't Grace Slick, so she didn't know Grace Wing from Adam. Sent me this invitation to the White House, and I went, oh, yes, yes, oh, yes. You know, so I went with Abby Hoffman, and we tried to get him to look regular, like kind of slick his hair back and put a suit on. I mean, he just looked like mafia, so, you know. And they knew something was wrong. They didn't know what. They were right. But the security came out to me and said, I'm sorry, you can't go in. I said, I have an invitation. So he went back to his little booth, and he came back. He said, no, you're a security risk, and you're on the FBI list. So I couldn't get in.
Didn't you have a pocket full of acid, though?
Yes, but they didn't know that. So they were right. Because what it is if you go to these finishing schools, they teach you how to pour tea, and it's a specific form. There's a long table. You ask your best friends to be on either side. There are silver urns at either side, and your best friends stand there and pour, and you stand. You don't sit down. You stand with your coffee cup. I'm an entertainer. I talk to Richard. I'm gesturing, and I gesture into his coffee cup.
With LSD.
It only takes, you know, about that. And then about an hour later, he'd be going, how come there's a dragon on the thing? You know, and they'd have to
Well,
take
what
him
a
down.
mental image. Richard Nixon on acid. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Oh, we have someone from the Commodores here. Eh? What a band that is. God. Do you have a question for Grace? Yeah? Hold on.
Okay. We're about the same generation. We are the same generation. And we all came up through the 60s. And I want to know, did we do better or did we do worse for life? I mean, for all the people that we brought up during that time, our children and all, did we make a good statement or did we make a bad statement?
I think most of it was good. I think when you're very young, you make a lot of statements that are flamboyant and that you possibly are wrong about. You make them anyway. Also, I think we expected what we were talking about to happen faster than it did. Yeah. I want it right now. And very little that you want happens right now with a great deal of ease. But I think most of the things that we're going for are still valid today. Almost everything, with the exception probably of let's all take lots of drugs until we fall down, because you will fall down. And, yeah, I mean, to tell kids that it's no fun is a lie. It is fun. It's like jumping out of an airplane with no parachute. The ride is fun, but you make a big mess on the way, you know.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small, and the one that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she sent me to call.
Turns to the inside track.
Hey man, I'd like to mention that the Hells Angels just smashed Marty Ballin in the face and knocked him out for a bit. I'd like to thank you for that.
No!
What do you think the difference was between Love and Peace and Woodstock and what happened only 4 months later, Altamont? I mean, you were there at Altamont, you were there at Woodstock. I was also. We both played. And to my perspective, there was an incredible difference between those two festivals. What do you think it was exactly?
I don't know. Yin-yang is the only thing I can think of, is you can't have all or one of the other. It's too bad. But it just seems like, I didn't like it, but it seemed fairly natural that that would happen at some point.
You know, there was a fight going on between Marty and the Angels, and you didn't even react to that. And when I look at the footage...
That's because I didn't have my contact lenses on. No, I'm serious. The band sort of stopped playing, and I went over to Spencer, who was the drummer at the time, and said, "What's going on?" He said, "The Hells Angels are beating up Marty." And I'm going, "What? You know, huh?"
It scared me. Altamont scared me. In fact, we spent the last 20 years trying to extricate ourselves from having played at Altamont. Not a lot of people know that Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young played Altamont, because we kind of liked it that way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you see, you didn't have your contact lenses in, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know who was there. You know, if it weren't for the music, my ears being semi-open, nothing would have happened.
Okay, yes.
Thanks, I'm Maureen. Since the 60s did not invent drugs, but sure promoted it, the music sure promoted it. Mm-hmm. What do you think, since as we move into the 90s, musicians have either OD'd or have cleaned up their act, what do you think the message should be from the music industry regarding drugs?
I don't know that the music industry is the only area to do something about that. It's part of it. To me, it is, America takes more drugs than any other country in the world. And partly, this is my own feeling about it, and that is that we have no roots. Most of the people I know do not live with their families, don't listen to their families. There's no respect for old age. There's no cultural steps that you follow. The Jewish people, very few of them, even as soon as 12 years ago, were in Alcoholics Anonymous. But since they have been integrated more and more into this kind of a melting pot, more and more of them are coming into AA. The Japanese people, same thing. They're getting peculiar diseases they never had before. Cholesterol levels are skyrocketing because they're kind of following the Western patterns. And I think a lot of it has to do with that family structure, the amount of love given between people, and it is also a genetic problem. The medical science has to figure out a way of knocking out the gene that transfers drug addiction, alcoholism, the same thing, from parent to child.
Do you not think that that is a question of self-image also? Because I know, you know, I talked with Crosby a lot about this, and, you know, for many years I didn't think that David liked himself, and I thought, well, there's the root of the problem right there. I mean, if you look in the mirror and you don't like yourself, I mean, wouldn't that, you know, tend to make you want to escape via drugs or alcohol or crazy behavior?
Maybe.
Do you like yourself is my question.
There are, yeah, parts of me I like and parts of me I don't. But you know, a lot of it's imposed by society. Everybody's supposed to look like Michelle Pfeiffer. And, you know, it depends. I've got a good body for about the 1500s. Small breasts, big hips, short legs, you know, kinky hair. Boy, I would have been great then. And they would have looked at, you know, looked at Michelle Pfeiffer and gone, eh. So I'm just, you know, so there's stuff I like and stuff I don't like. I don't know that that has to do with it, because I know a lot of people who have had drug problems have said a number of very similar things. I felt different when I was little, not as good as or better than, but never even with. I'm Irish Catholic. There's all these things that are sort of standard. I don't feel that I fit into any of them, and yet I am an alcoholic, and I believe it's genetic as well as environmental.
If you didn't fit in with any of them, how come you're so successful as a woman in the rock and roll business?
I'm not that successful.
You don't think you're that successful?
No.
It's now
Look at
1989.
Madonna. You've got to have blonde hair and big boobs and good legs, Graham.
I know, but, you know, neither does Crosby, but he's successful too, you know. Hold on one second. Stand up, lady. I want to talk to you. This is Bonnie Raitt, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, Graham.
How you doing?
Hi, Grace.
So,
I'm happy to be here. Yes, I do, and it's funny you should mention that.
that's strange.
As two women in show business who have to constantly look around and wonder and get asked questions about, has it been difficult? for the purposes of the people that might be interested to hear what your answer is, me included, do you think that being a strong, independent role model for women has made it more difficult to get ahead in this business?
Oddly enough, before the women's liberation thing got going, it was easier for me to discuss with, on an equal level, music and the record companies and so forth, with the band and the record companies than it is now. And I'm not sure why that is. I think part of it is that when women start standing up and going, you're full of it to men, and we want this and we want that, and blah, blah, they start going like that. So that when you do get a strong remark from a woman, they're more reticent now. They're thinking, oh, she's coming out, you know. So it was easier for me 25 years ago to talk to men on an even basis and get things kind of moving without rancor, shall we say, than it is now.
Yeah, I think that people like Barbra Streisand get bad rapped, and then people compare you if you want to be strong-willed also.
Yeah, if you're a strong woman, you're a bitch. If you're a strong man, you have a powerful, you know, different definition.
So you don't think it has anything to do with age or anything like that? Because, you know, I mean, I'm only 26 now, aren't I, Bonnie? Just, you're
Had
only
a tough
what,
life,
22?
huh?
I got a weird question for you.
What?
I got a weird question for you.
Okay.
What the hell is that on your chest?
That's a panda. That's my pal. That's the
Oh, that's right.
symbol of the World Wildlife Fund.
Right.
I got interested in pandas about 5 years ago. I've never seen a live panda. I've seen little pictures of them, cute, and they're in children's books and stuff. And it was the Tong Tong baby panda from the Ueno Zoo in Tokyo. And it was, and this sounds like Shirley MacLaine time, you know, it was like a spiritual experience or something. I thought, that's the cutest, greatest looking animal I've ever seen, and his reaction to the cameras and all that kind of stuff. I knew that World Wildlife symbol was a panda, so I thought, well, I'll find some more. I didn't know anything about pandas. I'll find some stuff out about pandas, and I wrote to them, and they have some serious amounts of paper. Boise Cascade is, you know, they sent me this massive amount of information, not only about pandas, but about stuff that I really knew very little about. That is the extraordinary destruction of everything that's going on. Plants, animals, the oceans, you name it. And I read...
Sometimes it looks pretty bleak, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so through this being interested in pandas, I learned about a lot of the rest of it.
And you also have a song on the new Jefferson Airplane album.
That's true.
About
it's called
pandas.
Panda.
Yeah.
And it has gotten some bad reviews. The guy said it's sort of like a nauseating Disney kind of song.
Hey, wait a second. Disney probably single-handedly did the most for animals that I've ever seen anybody do. I mean, he made us all love them.
Probably.
Right?
But I think it's also partly expectations of a certain personality. I'm supposed to be hard and violent and nasty and sarcastic and drunk. And so if you get that kind of a person singing, oh, panda bear, you know, that kind of stuff, they go, what is going on?
And you know something? Truth is, I've never seen you like that. I don't know that person that you obviously have been at some point. I've never seen that person. You've always been wonderfully charming whenever we talk, you know. Really,
You're lying.
No, I'm not lying. I've never seen you drunk. I don't think I've ever seen you.
Yes, you had Bill Graham. You were playing in the Fillmore West.
Oh, when he came on stage?
And I came on stage
I
doing
stand corrected.
karate.
Yeah. Yes.
In the middle of your show,
Wooden
and Bill
ships.
Graham... I was
remember.
sort of doing it like a dance because I saw Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, and I thought, that's like a dance. It's like this hard... So I came on stage doing, like, I wasn't going to hit any of you. I was just doing what they call kata, which is the practicing the forms. And I was doing forms. I thought I was harmless, and Bill Graham came in, you know, just kind of...
Bill. Bill.
So
Would you do me a favor?
Yes.
Would you sing Panda for us?
I will do that.
Would you?
Yeah.
He lives all alone, but the bamboo forest knows him. He's taken by man. He's got nowhere left to go. Well, he used to roam through all of China's mountains. It was his home, the only place he knows. He was born on the mountain's eastern side, where the sun brings the morning to the sky. In the snow, the human hunters hide. A shot is heard, but no one hears him cry. Oh, panda bear, my gentle friend, I don't want to say goodbye. Oh, panda bear, when will the killing end? When will we see the light? He can feel the night. The last sunset is in his eyes. They will carry him away, take his beauty for their prize. Ah, but hunger would have come when the bamboo forest died. A panda bear you can't seem to win, no matter how hard you try. Oh, panda bear, my gentle friend, I don't want to say goodbye. Now his body lies on the mountain's western side. He was sold to a man whose money had no price. Shining fur traded for gold, but the price is too high. His kind is almost gone. He wants to survive. He was born on the mountain's eastern side, where the sun brings the morning to the sky. If we will try to share that morning light, we will find that we all have the right to life. Oh, panda bear, my gentle friend, I don't want to say goodbye. Oh, panda bear, when will the killing end? When will we get it right? Panda.
Yeah. Panda by Grace Slick. Thank you, Grace.
The Inside Track will continue in a moment on A&E.
We have a lady over here who was raising her hand before. What's your name? As if I didn't know.
I'm Susie Chaffee, and by the way, I respect your giving a forum to the pandas and helping an endangered species, and there are laws against that in the United States to protect that. But I designed the first line of fur-lined jackets for skiing because I got hypothermia using synthetics, which is a petroleum-based product that lead to pollution of the air and water, which is one of your concerns. But as an animal rights activist, and the definition of leather is shaved fur, how is it that, isn't it a little hypocritical for you and other animal activists to be wearing leather, shaved fur, boots and shoes and handbags, and eating meat? And doesn't it bother you, this Jack Anderson expose that the head of the National Humane Society was paid almost $400,000 a year in salary when the public is being asked to give money to the animals, and that just doesn't filter down to the animals?
Number one, I don't know about his salary. That's new to me. Number two, man is a carnivore, an omnivore. I respect people's right to be vegetarian. but we are built, our internal system and our teeth, and now these guys right here, for ripping flesh. If you watch some of the world wildlife things on A&E, for instance, you will see a panther going after a rabbit or something and ripping the hell out of it. I saw the bear last night. You watch a bear go after something. They're carnivores. The difference between the carnivore animals and human beings is that the carnivores don't take more than they need. One of the most efficient things that I believe, and this is my opinion, happening is that if we are carnivores, we can eat the meat and use the skin instead of leaving the stuff lying around. It's very efficient, I think. Now, there may be people who argue with me. On the other hand, there's a lot of meat left in Safeway. We kill too many animals. It's left over. I was annoyed with Ted Nugent goes out and shoots stuff. He ought to go down to Safeway because that meat's just going to rot anyway. Now, in your case, I would hope that the plastics industry, the same way they are working on developing furs that imitate the very beautiful fur coats that animals have, the plastics industry will come up with something that won't make you break out or whatever it is.
No, but that's leading to the pollution. This is Nutria.
Nutria.
Which is
no, they are inventing plastics that also are biodegradable.
Well, that would be wonderful.
That's what I give Dow Chemical something to do.
Good.
Interesting question.
But if you had a child that had a disease and the only cure of it was formed by animal research, would you deprive that child?
I'm glad you said that. You're leading me right into my next area. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I have
Oil wrestling at 8, folks.
I have a bizarre opinion on the prison systems, and that is that if you are convicted of capital punishment, you become a medical experiment. Okay? Now, here's some of the reasoning. They complain about the prison systems being overcrowded, and that's because David Crosby was able to fart around and form a band while he was in prison. I think the guys ought to be working, okay? The ones who are not convicted of capital crimes, they have robbed a store or they're drug addicts, they ought to get treatment for the drug problem, and they ought to work making mattresses and license plates and things all day. Millionaires say, how'd you get to be a millionaire? Working 16 hours a day. Make them work 16 hours a day in prison. Capital punishment. Okay, this passed the FDA. It's a drug called Zomax. I had some crab one day and some Zomax. It's a prescription drug that acts like aspirin. My husband had some. He said I had pain in my back or something, I don't know. He said, here, have some of this. They had to take me to a hospital. I was throwing up, coming out from the other end. They had to jam a wet towel down my throat because my throat stuck together and I couldn't breathe and I almost died. The doctor said, what did you have? I had crab and Zomax. He said, oh, really? He said, they took that off the market. I said, why? Because people are dying. I would rather have somebody who's convicted of a capital crime in there instead of a rabbit, because a rabbit isn't built like me. It doesn't have the same metabolism, okay? An animal does not have the same systems we do. Let's test it out on human beings. They tested it out on me. I almost died, and I haven't killed anybody.
What about if that person that was experimented on was later found to be innocent?
Yeah, that was going to be my point.
Okay, I'm innocent. They experimented on me.
Yeah, no,
they experimented on me, and I'm innocent. They didn't, what they did is they gave Zomax to a bunch of rabbits. And several people died after they put it on the market.
And your point is that rabbits don't eat crab? And
that's true.
Thank you. Anybody else have a nice question here? This is truly one of our great sportsmen, Mr. Steve Garvey, ladies and gentlemen.
How you doing, sir? Great. Good. Let me change the focus for a second. And as I've been watching, I never realized you have such gorgeous blue eyes.
They're fake.
And, well, I bought it. And both of us have played in front of 60,000 people at a stadium. Mm-hmm. And I know that at times I've always wondered, because I couldn't sing or dance or play an instrument, what it's like up on that stage. Do you have a format and you stick to it, or do you react to the audience and how they flow with you and your music?
Both.
No.
Yeah, I enjoy talking to people, so it's a little harder now because the band is more together and they play one song right after the other. At the beginning, Airplane used to tune up for 20 minutes. You know, I could talk to people, walk off, go to the bathroom, you know. I mean, it was...
That wasn't part of the music?
You noticed. Now there, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
I should have known better than to be smart with you.
Yeah, I'm going to start in on your ass.
Why haven't I learned by now? This is 25 years she's been doing this to me. Go
They
ahead.
were always very well organized, and their harmonies were always right on everything. We've always been just really sloppy, which occasionally Paul Kantner says gives it some of its charm.
Being in music is really great, don't you think, Grace?
I think it's just nuts.
The best, the best. Let me talk to this gentleman over here.
My question is, nowadays it seems like, you know, as all of us have grown older, and there's a new breed of rock and rollers. I think one time Mick Jagger said that he was going to retire when he was 33. I think that you at one point said, if I'm not mistaken, that you couldn't imagine yourself being on stage when you were 50.
Exactly.
Like you're like, what, 2 days away from a milestone birthday. How do you feel about that now and making a comment like that years
I think I'm
ago?
a big liar.
The Inside Track will continue in a moment on A&E.
You folks may not know who this guy is, but this guy's one of the greatest songwriters that ever lived, Mr. Lamont Dozier, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, he's just nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yes, indeed.
Thank you. I have a question, Grace. You're a great songwriter yourself, and
Boy, is that a compliment coming from this man, Gracie? I'm going to give you a videotape of this moment.
I'd like to ask you, how do you feel about most of your biggest songs have been written and produced by other people? Can you tell me what do you feel about that? Why haven't you done more of them?
The Starship did mostly outside material, and I respect the songwriters for what they can do. I find it very difficult, as you don't, to write songs that connect with a large audience, because I think funny. You know, I just don't see it quite the same way most people do. So even if I had long legs and blonde hair and big boobs, I don't think people would have been going, what is she talking? You know, because the lyrics of my songs are weird. You know, I've never been able to do what you do, and I wish I could. It's not a matter of...
You sound pretty good to me. I mean,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I wish I could, but I can't put things into the phrasing that connects with a lot of people.
Thank you, thank you very much. Hold on one second, Mr. Question. How are you?
Did you find that there was a big conflict that as a rock musician successful, that you'd be making a lot of money? You know, you'd have, say, a Mercedes-Benz or something driving around San Francisco, and there'd be some people on the street saying, hey, brother, give me some money. Did you find that there was a hard time reconciling those two extremes of being a successful rock musician and having a cause to support?
No, because personally, I don't know if this is going to sound crude, but it's the truth. My father was a banker. So the level at which I live now is more or less the same level I lived at as a kid. And that English was wrong, but I'll continue anyway. It's sort of always been the same. And the fact that a major record label wanted to sign us only amused me, because I thought I was doing this for fun. I would have probably done it if I had not gotten paid. I've disengaged myself from bands twice. You know, I don't want to do this anymore. The music business is crazy. I'm out of here. And I can't stop writing music. I can't stop singing and writing music. I do it at home, even when I think I'm just going to become a spiritual housewife and all that kind of junk. So I would always do that. And the business of having more or less money, you try to give back.
And besides, Grace tried to get rid of her Mercedes once, I remember. Remember?
Try to get rid of it.
Don't argue with a German?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cement walls. What exactly happened there, by the way?
You get very drunk and you race Jorma Kaukonen at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it is raining, and there's oil on Doyle Drive in San Francisco. And
Oil on Doyle.
Oil on Doyle. I was so numb that I saw that wall coming, and I thought, oh, God, now I'm going to have to fill out police forms.
That actually went through your mind?
I didn't think about death. I did not think about...
Because you were badly injured, I recall.
I had 3 head concussions and a split lip, and I was wandering around the hospital saying, I bet you guys have better cocaine than we had. It's probably pure here, right? I mean,
oh, I'm sure
I just
people in
got my
hospital
lip
really
split.
like that.
You wouldn't mind giving me... I mean, this is a sick human being.
Let 'em see what's crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back.
Turns to the inside track.
How do you feel about your daughter China, who is now beautiful and what, 18?
Yes.
18. How do you feel about her being in the business? Have you been able to give her any tips of what to avoid? Or how do you feel about her making more money than you sometimes?
Oh, that'd be good. I think kids ought to do what they like, because they'll do it better. You know what I'm saying? If she was an accountant, I don't understand it, but I think she ought to do that.
Right.
She likes the, she is not interested, I don't think, too much in singing on a consistent basis. She likes the television acting, so go for it.
Is she good at it?
I think she will be, yeah. I've seen her in a number of different productions that are local.
How do you feel? Does it make you really proud?
Yeah, it does, because it is a difficult profession, and you're on the spot.
Right.
And to be able to carry it off and do it well, and to get into the character, yeah, I'm amazed. I'm amazed by it.
Do you think you'd be able to do that? Even though you've done it on a
No,
certain...
because my memory is awful, and always has been. I can't even blame it on drugs. So I'd
you mean
love...
you had a bad memory before you took drugs?
Yeah, it was always terrible. I mean, you ought to see my purse. It's full of file cards. I wouldn't get up in the morning if I didn't write it down, you know. And so I'd love to do character parts in movies and television and stuff. Be just this weird thing, but I cannot memorize stuff. It takes me forever.
Anybody else
You'll see how this goes when I try and sing Crosby, Stills, and Nash version of Wooden Ships in a while, when I've been doing the Airplanes version for 25. I'm going to be doing Airplanes version, and they're going to be doing theirs.
That's called jazz, isn't it?
It is.
Now, did we do Wooden Ships first, or did the Airplane do Wooden Ships first?
That's a question that none of us seem to know. David said that we were doing the cover of yours.
Well, David would say that, wouldn't he? So David thinks that the Airplane were doing the cover of the Crosby, Stills, and Nash thing.
That's right.
Very interesting. Let's mix them both up. Let's do Wooden Ships.
I'm going to do Airplanes version while they're doing...
Okay, and to help us out with the third harmony, not that we need it. We don't need this harmony, but he's been bugging me all night. Would you welcome, please, a very special guest, Mr. David Crosby over here.
This is the man that was laughing at me backstage while I was talking to Steve Garvey.
David.
American sports. Now, we're lucky he named the right sport. I saw Graham try to play baseball once, man.
David.
I'll tell you, this is the truth. You need to know this. We were playing baseball. Yes, I want to tell you this, just so you understand what a distance he comes through trying to understand you. We were playing baseball. They hit the ball. We put Graham out in the field, naturally, you know, way out there. And the ball comes to him, and he goes, oh! And he's got a glove on his left hand. He looks at it, and he tries to catch it with this hand. And then he tears the glove off and transfers it and throws it with his hand.
I'm a cricket player. Gloves?
Utterly
gloves?
mystified.
What gloves, you know?
Hadn't a clue. You know,
Springsteen's team beat the hell out of us, though,
That's
didn't
true,
they?
they did. They beat us.
That's all right. You ought to hear him play guitar. I don't, maybe you're great. I just had to do it.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
If you smile at me, I will understand that it's something everybody everywhere doesn't the same language. Yes, I've been eating them for 6 or 7 weeks now. Haven't got sick once. Probably keep us all alive. Wooden ships on the water, very free and take a sister and bite her hand. Lead her around to this foreign land, far away, where we might laugh again. We are leaving. You don't need us. You don't. Fair wind blowing warm out of the south of my shoulder. I guess I'm going to set a course.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Joker, ladies and gentlemen, back here on the keyboard. Thank you.
Sunday, vintage big band performances make it to video on Arts and Entertainment Review. Now stay tuned as Elena Reed Hall hosts an all-new A&E's and Evening at the Improv. Next.
I love